The Booktown project started because Tony Seaton, who was an academic in Glasgow, needed a subject on which his student could write a PhD for a doctorate. So he sought out the idea that they could discuss whether Scotland could support a Booktown in the same way as Wales supports AMY. And this was decided as a good thing. It was leaked to the press and picked up in Wigton by Meta Maltman, who worked for Macca's Action. And she came round and discussed it with the booksellers. The first we knew was that Roy Surplus turned up at the front door and explained the situation to my husband and said, "Do you think it would be a good idea?" And he said, "Well, I shall be doing business at the time, but I'm sure my wife would rope in with it." So that was what happened. And we found a little committee of 2 members of the community council. That was Roy Surplus and Jack Cameron, and 2 members of the booksellers association, the business community. That was myself and Andy McDowell, the television man, and we got together and discussed what was to be done. Well, we had to produce a written report, and we had to support our application in as many ways as we could. And we had certain advantages. First, the money was available for a town that needed it, and we certainly needed it. And we were helped because a local man in the area made a video which pointed out how dilapidated our buildings were and gave a view of people interested in Booktown, and we were involved in that. We co-opted various other people. There was Ian Patterson, who was our local councillor, and Sandra McDowell, who was a competent secretary, and there was a businessman in the area called Björn Dirks, who was a Dutchman who'd made a lot of money, and he came in on it. And we set about making our submission. We were in competition with various other places, and we had to make the most of our advantages, which was we had unlimited parking, which the square makes a big difference. We also had lots of tumble-down houses for sale where bookshops could be set up. And Raymond Armstrong, who was the owner of the distillery at the time, was prepared for us to use his buildings. So we noised this abroad as much as we could, and I communicated with newspapers and sent out letters to various newspapers about what we were doing and replied to criticisms as they came out in publication. We were up against other towns, including Dalmellington and Moffat, and eventually we had news from Glasgow that they were all sending a delegation up to talk to them. So our team went in Roy Surplus's trooper up to Glasgow and met in a room where there was a group of people sitting at a table to interview us. And they read out the results of the piece of work that had been done on the possibility of having a Booktown. And then they said, "We've come to the conclusion that since no money is allocated for this, we could put aside a little bit of money and everybody who completed would have a bit. Is that agreeable with all of you?" And I don't know what the others thought, but I leapt to my feet and said, "No, it isn't. We've competed for this. We've been led on to get an idea of winning something to put our town on the map, and we think that should be stuck to," and sat down. And then somebody else from the university said, "Well, that's possibly what we shall have to do, so we'll have to set up a competition." So they appointed a series of judges. I think there were 5 of them all told, and they had to judge the submissions and the videos and everything else we did. And they came down to talk to us, and we had a meal in the county building, and we put up our submission, and then later on we waited for the result, and we thought we were in for a chance because the television cameras turned up and we were given a crate of champagne. So it was announced that Wigton was the winner, and we were all deliriously happy and drinking our champagne, and that was the end of that. But then we had to set up the organisation of getting ourselves underway, and an economist from Cambridge was appointed to come and assess the feasibility of running Wigton as a book town, which he did, and he came up with it favourably. And then he said something will have to be done because public expectation has been aroused. So it was decided that there must be some money got from somewhere, and so we had a certain amount of support. Apart from that, we were very much on our own, for we attracted people to come into the town, and since then we've had booksellers going out of the town, but we've had more coming in, and we're still going strong, so we feel that we have achieved something.